A new Wordle puzzle is online. Click on the link to play.
Listening to the following video may give you clues. Please like and share the videos.
Former Vice President Joe Biden to lead tributes to Madeleine Albright. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright will receive a special memorial service and speech in her honor at the White House on Thursday.
President Biden, former President Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will all pay tribute to Albright, the first woman to lead the State Department. Here's what to expect.
We'll moderate comments before they are published. Madeleine Albright was a great champion of democracy and refugee from Nazi Germany.
Biden to lead tributes to former Secretary of State. Former Vice President Joe Biden will lead tributes to former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright at her funeral on Thursday.
The former Secretary of State was a highly successful diplomat who served as the U.S. Secretary of State from 1997 to 2001.
Born in Czechoslovakia, she immigrated to the United States when she was a child. She later served as ambassador to the United Nations and was known for wearing colorful brooches.
Albright was remembered for encouraging women to enter the Foreign Service and making sure that women had representation in national security decisions. She was a mentor to many prominent national security figures and a role model for young women pursuing careers in international relations.
She was an early member of the Foreign Service Academy and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Kiosh was also a member of the Beauvoir School Board of Directors.
She was a proud member of the Cathedral Chapter of the National Cathedral School and served on the Board of Directors. Vice President Joe Biden was on his way to rally NATO allies against Russia when Albright passed away.
Her leadership helped keep NATO together and galvanized it. She exemplified the idea of personal leadership in international affairs.
And Biden said that he was honored to lead tributes to the former Secretary of State, and he backed it with words of gratitude.
Whether you were a student at the University of Vermont or a graduate of Harvard Law School, Madeleine Albright's legacy will live on. She was an influential member of the foreign policy community and a key player in the Clinton administration.
Biden praised Albright as a force of nature and said that she changed history for the better. There are more tributes to Madeleine Albright than ever before.
Albright was a mentor to many national security figures. Madeleine Albright served as Secretary of State and Chairwoman of the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs.
She also taught at Georgetown University and was an accomplished author, writing 7 New York Times bestsellers. In 2016, she delivered the keynote address at the 30th anniversary of the Hopkins Nanjing Center.
She influenced dozens of national security figures with her wisdom and experience. She embodied the values of diplomacy and international relations, and she cultivated a deep relationship with her students.
While she was Secretary of State, Albright continued to influence American foreign policy long after she stepped down from the presidency. Her mentorships and guidance in policymaking made her a model for many national security figures.
Her career began as a journalist and ended in a successful marriage to a wealthy journalist from the Middle Patterson newspaper dynasty. The couple had 3 daughters and divorced in 1983.
After leaving office, Albright was still active in the foreign policy community, seeking advice from presidents and leaders around the world. Biden sought her counsel on foreign policy and was a mentor to many.
Although she died of cancer in March, she will be remembered by former colleagues, friends and colleagues. Former US presidents, Secretary of State, and foreign leaders will attend her funeral along with many national security figures.
Several thousand people are expected to attend her funeral. Albright also cultivated a culture of inclusion in the State Department.
She put Ramadan on the State Department's calendar and pushed for military intervention in Kosovo, which Time magazine dubbed Madeleine's War. She also helped bring Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic into NATO.
After her government career, Albright founded a consulting firm in Washington, D.C., and became an advisor to many national security figures. She was a champion of democracy.
Former Vice President Joe Biden has offered to lead the US effort to support Ukraine, where the government has been weakened by Russia's aggression. Former President Bill Clinton and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have also offered tributes to Albright, who served as ambassador to the United Nations from 1993 to 1997.
While in Europe, Biden had discussed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Former Presidents Barack Obama and Joe Biden have spoken of Albright's accomplishments in the public and private sector.
Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and other former officials praised Albright's leadership, including her role as a mentor and motivator for young women. The women's movement was a big part of her legacy and a rallying cry for many people.
Other dignitaries attending the funeral will include former Secretaries of State Hillary Clinton and John Kerry. Biden will be accompanied by his wife, Michelle Obama, and his daughter, Mimi.
Former Secretaries of State John Kerry and Condoleezza Rice will deliver tributes. Also expected to attend are former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, John Kerry, and Samantha Power.
President Obama, Vice President Biden, and a number of current and former members of Congress. Albright's family and friends will attend the funeral.
She was a mentor to many of the nation's leaders and national security experts. She attended National Cathedral School in Washington, D.C., as did her daughter, and served as the school's board chair.
She was a refugee from Nazi Germany. On Wednesday, U.S. President Barack Obama joined former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright for a state dinner.
The former Secretary of State, a refugee from Nazi Germany, was praised by both Obama and Biden for her work in the aftermath of the Cold War. She was also praised by Undersecretary General Antonio Guterres.
Both Obama and Biden shared a favorite memory of the former Secretary of State. As the world mourns the loss of an internationalist, the United States should take its place as a leader.
Albright's family fled to Prague from Nazi Germany in 1939. Later, they went to London and then the United States.
After the war, her father enrolled the family at the University of Denver, where she studied. Rice was one of her students.
On Wednesday, world leaders and the political elite gathered to pay tribute to the former Secretary of State. She fought to preserve democracy and human rights.
She became Secretary of State under President Barack Obama. Biden has offered to lead the tributes to the former Secretary of State.
Biden will be a fitting choice to lead the memorial service. There will be no shortage of mourners for Albright's legacy.
As U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright helped shape the international environment. She pushed for the expansion of NATO, despite the dangers of nuclear war.
She also championed the spread of democracy and human rights throughout the world. Ultimately, she led the United States to take the lead in the Kosovo conflict, and the international community is a better place because of it.
She was a prolific author. Former U.S.
Secretary of State Madeleine Albright passed away last month from cancer. She was a child refugee from war-torn Europe who rose to the highest position in the U.S.
government as Secretary of State under President Bill Clinton. In her last years, she championed the United States as an indispensable nation, and President Biden and former President Clinton both paid tribute to her in separate speeches.
Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright died on March 31. The funeral service was held in Washington, D.C., and former Secretaries Hillary Clinton and John Kerry will deliver tributes.
Other prominent government officials scheduled to speak include Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, CIA Director Bill Burns, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley, and White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
The funeral service will feature a masked VIP audience, as requested by the Albright family. Among the dignitaries expected to attend are the presidents of Colombia and Bosnia, as well as ambassador to the UNSUZNI.
Rice. Foreign dignitaries from Kosovo and Georgia were also invited to the funeral service.
During the Second World War, Albright's family fled Czechoslovakia, spending the war years in London. Her father brought the family to the U.S., where they were educated by Professor Corbel.
Rice was one of her students. During this time, she remained committed to international issues, and she worked to make a difference.
Senators Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden led a vigil last week to remember the former Secretary of State. During her time in Washington, Albright was universally admired for breaking the glass ceiling and becoming a United States citizen.
She was a foreign-born refugee who became a U.S. diplomat and chair of the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs. She was also a prolific writer, releasing 7 New York Times bestsellers.